I had to rush down to North Carolina to have my van builder fix an electrical issue, and before heading out of the area, I made a last-minute decision to check out Charleston, South Carolina. There was no planning for this visit, and now I can't find parking, so it'll be a driving tour. This is called Rainbow Row. There are a lot of theories as to why they were painted these bright colors, like it was so drunk sailors could find their way home, or illiterate slaves could find an address, or the light colors kept the buildings cooler, but nobody knows for sure why they're so colorful. This city was built on the slave trade. Charleston was the main port where slave ships arrived, and slaves built this city, and they were sold right on these streets until a slave market was built. It was called Ryan's Slave Mart. It's now a museum. According to the museum, 80% of today's African Americans can probably trace their ancestors to the slave trade in Charleston.
Hey, pretty boy, I won't tell you that's the way to do. After drink water, she brought gasoline. Now listen to you, doing me mighty mean. I'll tell you that's the way to do. Talk about your girls, boy, you ought to see mine. Ain't so pretty, but she sure is just fine. That's the way to do. Talk about your gal, ought to see mine. She's the sweetest gal.
Look at that building, looks like it belongs in New Orleans. There is a French Quarter in Charleston because there were a lot of French merchants in this city right from the very beginning in the year 1680. The French were able to practice their religion here. And that's probably why Charleston was called the Holy City. Many different religions were tolerated here. This is Broad Street, which was completely destroyed during the Civil War. This is Meeting Street, and I'm seeing all kinds of restaurants and other food-related businesses. Barbecue was actually invented in South Carolina by the Native Americans and the Spanish settlers. That building is the city market, which sold food 200 years ago, but now it sells souvenirs. There's 8 different styles of architecture in the city, but the houses all have a similar interior layout, so they're called Charleston houses. A unique feature of a lot of these Charleston houses is that the porch is on the side of the house to protect it from the heat of the late day sun. And the front door of these houses doesn't lead into the house, but into the porch, which gave people more privacy. This city is where the Civil War began. South Carolina was the first to vote to secede from the Union right after Abraham Lincoln won the election. They knew his stance on slavery.
Hey, hey, say that thing, boy.
Horse-drawn carriage, and I also saw some pedicabs. I'll definitely come back and spend time here. I usually plan in detail ahead of time so I don't miss anything worthwhile. Even though I don't always follow the plans, I like to have them. Planning is fun for me too because it builds the anticipation, and I love looking at maps.
When you beg for water, they bring gasoline. Then they tell me that ain't doing me mean. Hey, say the thing. Hey, hey, I won't tell you that's no way to do. See, you talk about yours, but you ought to see mine. Ain't so pretty, but she sure is just fine. I want to tell you, babe, no way to do.
We're heading to the waterfront into an area called the Battery. The Battery is a seawall built as protection during the Civil War. The neighborhood is known as Charleston's Millionaire Mile. South Carolina's wealthiest person lives here. She's the billionaire widow of businessman Jerry Zucker. The restaurants looked interesting, and I'm sure there's some great seafood and museums. Definitely will plan details next time I return for another longer visit. This is Georgetown, South Carolina, another place I'd like to spend some time exploring. There's a sign for Gullah Museum. I've heard about the Gullah culture and the language here, but I have to get back up north to house sit for the winter. I had no trouble boondocking in Georgetown last night, so I will be back. I'm taking scenic Ocean Route 17 up the coast and into Virginia. Well, scenic Route 17 is not what I expected. I thought I'd be driving along the ocean, but it's an urban drive. This is Myrtle Beach, and then it'll take me through Wilmington, which is a city. Again, this is what happens when I didn't have time to thoroughly research the route. So I'll be getting on interstates, and when I get back to Rhode Island, I will be spending the winter carefully planning my spring travels to the 2 states I haven't visited in the lower 48. And then I will have been to every state but Alaska.